Hey guys, in this video I'm going to talk about the newest addition to my gun wall, which is this guy right here. Oh boy, this has been a restoration project that I have been working on for years. I'll put a picture of what this gun looked like when I started on the screen right now, but I mean this thing was a hot mess. So this is the stock that was on it. They cut off the end where the metal butt plate would go, and they put this Pachmeyer sort of recoil absorbing stock on it. They heavily sanded it. They filled in the sling slot, and then they of course sanded it, cut the wood down. No top handguard. They just threw that away. They threw away the barrel band. They probably cut the barrel band off and threw it away because the front sight was still on. And they cut down a regular 10-round magazine into this 5-round magazine. So this is what a normal 10-round magazine looks like, and they did a pretty good job with this. But they cut it and they sort of bent the sides of it to hold the floor plate. I think it was supposed to be a 5-round mag. It held 4 rounds. So all right, so this is sort of my guess of this rifle's history. I don't really know for sure. I don't think there is a way to know for sure, but this gun is an AC-45. It's in the D block, and it's within the last 1,000 or so G43/K43s made during World War II. So this is an actual Walther-made gun. So the Walther factory was captured by the Americans. The way it sort of happened is that the factory was still going, the workers were still there, they were still working and everything, and the American troops just went into it. So what I think would happen with this gun is it's too late in production for this gun to have reached the front lines. Also, it's in just beautiful, beautiful, immaculate shape. So I don't think that this gun actually ever saw combat. I don't think this gun didn't even leave the factory. What I think happened is that this gun was made and it was sitting in like a warehouse or storage or something at the factory. American soldier, walked in and just took it, grabbed it, and left with it. So this gun, of course, ended up back in the States. And, these guns were not very well liked and they weren't very well appreciated at the time. But what they were was a fairly high quality semi-automatic rifle and a full caliber cartridge. So this gun kind of had a few advantages going for it than what really existed on the U.S. commercial market at the time. So, and obviously it was free. Whoever got this gun and brought it back home was free. I mean, World War II vintage Milsurps were so dirt cheap after the war. So what I think happened is the guy who owned this, he just decided, hey, this gun was free. I mean, maybe it was a soldier, maybe it was like his kid or something like that, but it was obviously done a long time ago, back before these things were worth any money. But he just decided to cut up the wood and cut up the magazine, and he made a hunting rifle out of this G43. And no telling if he actually went hunting with it or if he actually shot anything with it. But yeah, that's what I think is the story behind this rifle, and I've been trying to restore this thing for years, and I've had to order parts from like 4 different countries now. All right, here's the parts that are ordered for it. So I got the stock, a butt plate screws, cleaning rod nut, cleaning rod, front band spring, sight hood, which I haven't gotten that on yet, and I got the cross bolt, which is like the recoil lug in the stock. Yeah, it was a lot of little pieces, and it took a lot to come together to be able to make this rifle. But I'm super happy with it. This is a gun that's really been on my bucket list for a long time. Still a couple things I need to do with the rifle, like install the Outfelter shooter's kit in the gun. That way, sort of reduces the amount of gas that blows the action back, so it doesn't beat itself to death. So a lot of people think that, which is rightly so with most German weapons, the later in the war it got, then the more and more corners that they cut. So oftentimes what you hear is that they excluded the little bolt takedown button off of the bolt carrier was a simplification, right? Because now it's just square, there's no buttons, and so often I read or hear in videos people say that because of them removing that button, it just makes disassembling this gun really hard because normally, of course, you lock the bolt back, you press the button, and then you lift out the whole bolt carrier, and it's all in this, compressed state, and then you press the button and it kind of explodes out. And my opinion is that the exclusion of the button is an actual improvement to the takedown of the K43 G43 rifle, and I will show you why in a minute. But one of the reasons that sort of backs me up on that is that if you look at all the other parts on this gun, no other parts were simplified. No other parts were removed. In fact, they added a couple extra steps to manufacturing the G43s at the end. So why would they be adding steps, but then drastically reduce your ability to supposedly to break the gun apart, to field strip it? So that doesn't make any sense to me. So I am just going to show you the actual way that you field strip one of these late war K43s, because it is very different than just about everything that you hear on the internet. So let's just get into it. Okay, so here we can see an up-close shot of how that bolt hold open has been omitted on the bolt carrier. So this is what a lot of people claim as, just them trying to just save that extra step, when in fact the field strip is actually easier with this new method. Just with the safety on, you press the button on the back of the bolt housing, and you can just lift that off, and that comes right out. So that mostly stays in there. These can be separated for cleaning, but it mostly just stays together whenever you do that. And then this bolt carrier and bolt just slides back. Just looks a little bit harder on camera, but and then the bolt and bolt carrier just slide out like that together. And that's it. So you just, you can clean this gun out however you want to. And of course, the reassembly is just the opposite of that. As I pointed out earlier, I think that if they were really just going for purely simplification with this system, they would not have implemented all the changes that they did on these later ones. So here you can see these crescent cuts. These are kind of just like lightning cuts, and that's in the bolt here. And then, most importantly, there is the addition of a spring detent, and then this new little cutout here. And all that is supposed to do is just keep whenever you turn this, everything doesn't get dumped out. Because on previous G43s that don't have all these extra parts, if you tilted it back, everything would just spill out on the ground wherever you were. However, with this detent, it catches it and it holds it in there pretty well. These are a lot of little parts. There's a little spring, there's a little detent added, there's a new hole drilled in the firing pin holder. So there's a lot of extra steps on here, not to mention the holes that they drilled into the piston cup. So they really did put a lot of new effort into this. So I don't think it's exactly true saying that they omitted the bolt takedown just for simplicity's sake. So the reassembly of the G43 is pretty straightforward. You just want to drop the bolt carrier in there. That slides forward. And then you want to make sure the spring goes in the hole in the back of the bolt. And then you just sort of line up the little notches there. Press this button. And there you go. The bolt's back together. You didn't have to deal with any of these little compressing of the parts. You didn't have to deal with, the accidental sort of explosion of parts going everywhere. I mean, this later system, Walther really did improve the G43 field strip dramatically. So don't just see that and think that that was just cost saving. It really is a much better system. So a couple more points about the K43. So I weighed this rifle, and it weighs 9 pounds 14 ounces. So just a little bit under 10 pounds. So the K43 is actually just a few ounces lighter than the U.S. rifle caliber 30 M1, and the K43 is the same weight, like almost exactly the same weight as the Finnish Mauser M39, which really kind of puts it into perspective that this is a pretty heavy rifle. That semi-automatic rifles are about the same weight as this thing. So my advice to you is that if you are thinking about getting one of these guns, that first off, you need deep pockets. This is not a cheap gun, and this is a lot like a Ferrari, where like the parts the sum of the parts is more expensive than like the cost of the rifle. So what I think a lot of people are doing is buying these guns and then parting them out and selling all the parts. You can't just shoot them. You can't just buy it and go out and shoot it because you risk the thing breaking. You can't just shoot any 8mm Mauser out of these things because like there have been G43s that have blown up because of people shooting like Yugoslavian 8mm through it. So you have to be careful with these things. You have to baby them. You have to get new springs and a shooter's kit for it. And you might even want to reload for it, like lighter than full-powered rounds. This is a gun that you kind of have to baby and you kind of have to know what you're getting into. So because of those reasons, I wouldn't recommend this gun necessarily for everyone. But I just had to have it because it is just way too cool of a piece of World War II history. And this is a gun that goes towards my like World War II semi-automatic rifle collection. So I'm really happy to have this, but just be forewarned if you're thinking about getting one. So magazine changes on the G43 is pretty straightforward. It feels a little funny, especially if you're used to like AK mags because of how thick this magazine, how short it is. But you can kind of get used to just kind of gripping it and taking it off. So I have a magazine sitting on the table below me. Now the German soldier, they didn't just take these out and get rid of them. Sometimes they would only be issued, between 1 and 3 of these magazines. So they would definitely hang on to these magazines. So I'm going to just sort of demonstrate a reload here. You can kind of get an idea of the speed of a reload. So it's not a very slow reload. I mean, the slowest thing about it is probably just your process of taking the old magazine out, putting it in a pouch, and then taking a new magazine out of the pouch, and then placing that into the rifle. So it's definitely a different sort of reload feature than probably a lot of soldiers were used to during World War II. Yeah, and the bolt does lock back on the last round, as you can see right there. I'm using dummy 8mm cartridges. If I don't say that, people freak out. So I tell you the thing that really sucks the most about reloading the G43 is when you have to use the standard Mauser stripper clips. I mean, the gun is set up to do it, and I think most soldiers that were issued these, they were given all of their ammunition on these clips. Sometimes they weren't given spare magazines, so they would just keep their regular, K98K Mauser pouches and just reloaded with these things all the time. So this is definitely something that had to be done, and I'll just kind of demonstrate here sort of how much of a pain it is. All right, that didn't look that bad. All right, and let's see. Yeah, it kind of falls off. So that's interesting. The bolt actually stopped part of the way. I think that just means I need to get a new recoil spring in this thing because I think the spring is just kind of weak. But yeah, so it's kind of like with the Enfield. It's a 10-round magazine. You got to reload it with 2 different clips. It's cool. The clip actually popped out on that last time. But yeah, it's definitely a lot slower reloading with clips. But unfortunately, that was the reality for most soldiers at the time. Now, as a comparison to that, this is sort of your reload for the M1 Garand. You shoot it empty, the bolt would lock back. You would take your end block, load it in, let it go, and there you go. That's a pretty fast reload. You have 8 rounds on tap there. I mean, it's only 2 less than the G43, so it's not like you're at a huge firepower disadvantage, and really how fast that those 8 rounds can get loaded in there. That is sort of a pretty good testament of the Mannlicher clip system, like the advantage of the Mannlicher clip system over the Mauser clip system, especially when you get into double stack in block clips. It's really nice. The sling, of course, is the exact style as the K98K sling. I really like these side slings, as you guys know if you've been watching a lot of my videos. I love these side slings. The German one's a little weird though because of the way the keeper works. And I mean, I do have this on the second hole, but kind of a lot of this sling kind of goes forward where when I'm gripping the gun, like I am sort of gripping almost a handful of sling, and I don't think it impedes me any, but it's just not something I'm kind of used to. So that's kind of something different if you're not not really used to this German style sling. So I got this stock from Fox Militaria, and the guy that did this, he did such a fantastic job making this stock. I mean, when I looked at the inside of this stock, there's so many complications, like so many tiny little cuts and everything to the inside of these stocks. And I mean, he did a fantastic job and replicating all those little, cutouts and everything. I can't imagine the skill and the man hours it takes to make a stock like this. And I mean, it does show in the price. This stock is pretty expensive, and I did not get any sort of discount on this. I paid full price for this stock, and I think it's worth it. Really, it's a very high quality laminate wood stock. The Germans did use laminate wood on these guns, and the laminate wood is going to be more expensive than hardwood stocks. You can find hardwood reproduction stocks for these, but they're not correct, but they are like a quarter of the price. Appreciate you guys watching. I hope you learned something new about the G43. Up soon, hopefully, I'm going to have my Mauser rifle evolution video coming up, but I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you next time.